Good wishes to all of you. Social science, social and political life 2, chapter 9, struggles for equality. Take a look at these pictures. In this book, you have read about people like Kanta, the Ansaris, Melanie and Swapna. The thread that connects all of these lives is that they have been treated unequally. What do people do when they face such inequalities? History is full of examples of persons who have come together to fight against inequality and for issues of justice. Do you recall the story of Rosa Parks in chapter 1? Do you remember the photo essay on the women's movement in chapter 5? In this chapter, you will learn about some of the ways in which people have struggled against inequality. As you have already read in this book, the Indian Constitution recognizes all Indians as equal before the law and states that no person can be discriminated against because of their religion, sex, caste, or whatever they are rich or poor. All adults in India have the equal right to vote during elections, and this power over the ballot box has been used by people to elect or replace their representatives. What do you think is meant by the expression power over the ballot box? Discuss. No poverty, goal 1, sustainable development goal SDG. But this feeling of inequality that the ballot box provides because the vote of one person is as good as that of another does not extend to most people's lives. As you have read, the increasing privatization of health services and the neglect of government hospitals have made it difficult for most poor people like Kanta, Hakim Sheikh, and Eman to get a good quality health care. These people do not have the resources to afford expensive private health services. Similarly, the man who sells juice does not have the resources to compete with all of the major companies who sell branded drinks through expensive advertising. Swapna does not have sufficient resources to grow cotton and so has to take a loan from the trader to grow her crop. This forces her to sell her cotton at a lower price. Melanie, like the millions of domestic workers across the country, is forced to endure the insults and hardship of working as a domestic help because she has no resources to set up something on her own. Poverty and the lack of resources continue to be a key reason why so many people's lives in India are highly unequal. On the other hand, the Ansaris were discriminated against not because they did not have the resources. In fact, despite having the money to pay the required rent, they were not able to find an apartment for over a month. People were reluctant to lease them an apartment because of their religion. Similarly, the main reason that the teachers forced Om Prakash Valmiki to sweep the schoolyard was because he was Dalit. You have also read that the work women do is often considered of less value than the done by the men. All of these persons are discriminated against primarily because of their social and cultural background as well as because they are women. Discrimination on the basis of a person's religion, caste, and sex is another significant factor for why people are treated unequally in India. In India, it is the case that the poor consist of a majority of members of Dalit, Adivasi, and Muslim communities and are often women. According to the 2011 census data, women from 48.5% of the population, Muslims form 14.2% of the population, SCs form 16.6%, and STs 8.6%. Struggles for equality. Throughout the world, in every community, village, city, and town, you will find that there are some people who are known and respected because of their fight for equality. These people may have stood up against an act of discrimination that they faced or which they witnessed, or they may be well respected because they treat all persons with dignity and are therefore trusted and called upon to resolve issues in the community. Sustainable Development Goal. Goal number 10. Can you think of one person in your family, community, village, town, or city whom you respect because of their fight for equality, and justice. Often, some of these persons become more widely recognized because they have the support or represent large numbers of people who have united to address a particular issue of inequality. In India, there are several struggles in which people have come together to fight for issues that they believe are important. In chapter 5, you read about the methods used by the women's movement to raise issues of equality. The Tava Matsya Sang the Tava Matsya Sangh in Madhya Pradesh is another example of people coming together to fight for an issue. There are many such struggles, such as those among BD workers, fisherfolk, agriculture laborers, slum dwellers, and each group is struggling for justice in its own way. There are also many attempts to form cooperatives or other collective ways by which people can have more control over resources. Tava Matsya Sangh. When dams are built or forest areas declared sanctuaries for animals, thousands of people are displaced. Whole villages are uprooted and people are forced to go and build new homes, start new lives elsewhere. Most of these people are poor. In urban areas too, bastis in which poor people live are often uprooted. Some of them are relocated to areas outside the city. Their work as well as their children's schooling is severely disrupted because of the education from the outskirts of the city to these locations. Take a look at this image, the reservoir of the Taba River. This displacement of this sorry, this displacement of people and communities is a problem that has become quite widespread in our country. People usually come together to fight against this. There are several organizations across the country fighting for the rights of the displaced. In this chapter, we will read about the Tavamatya Sangh, a federation of fish workers cooperatives, an organization fighting for the rights of the displaced forest dwellers of the Satpura forest in Madhya Pradesh. Originating in the Mahadev hills of Chindwara district, the Tava flows through Betul before joining the Narmada in Hoshangabad. The Tava Dam began to be built in 1958 and was completed in 1978. It submerged large areas of forest and agriculture land. The forest dwellers were left with nothing. Some of the displaced people settled around the reservoir and, apart from their meager farms, found a livelihood in fishing. They earned very little. Take a look at this image. A dam is built across a river at sites where one can collect a lot of water. This forms a reservoir, and as the water collects, it submerges vast areas of land. This is because the wall of the dam across the river is high and the water spreads over a large area. This is a photo of the submergence caused by the Tehri Dam in Uttarakhand. The old Tehri town and 100 villages, some totally and some partially, were submerged by this dam. Nearly 1 lakh people were displaced. What issue in the Tava Matsya TMS fighting for? Why did the villagers set up this organization? Do you think that the large scale participation of villagers has contributed to the success of the TMS? Write 2 lines on why you think so. In 1994, the government gave the rights for fishing in the Tava Reservoir to private contractors. These contractors drove the local people away and got cheap labor from outside. The contractors began to threaten the villagers who did not want to leave by bringing in hoodlums. The villagers stood united and decided that it was time to set up an organization and do something to protect their rights. The newly formed Tava Matsya Sangh TMS organized rallies and a Chakka Jam road blockade, demanding their right to continue fishing for their livelihood. In response to their protests, the government created a committee to assess the issue. The committee recommended that fishing rights be granted to the villagers for their livelihood. In 1996, the Madhya Pradesh government decided to give to the people displaced by the Tawa Dam the fishing rights for the reservoir. A 5-year lease agreement was signed 2 months later. On January 2, 1997, people from 33 villages of Tawa started the new year with the first catch. Take a look at these images. Top members of the TMS protesting at a rally. Above, a member of the cooperative waiting the fish. Can you think of an incident in your life in which one person or a group of people came together to change an unequal situation? With the TMS taking over, the fish workers were able to increase their earnings substantially. This was because they set up the cooperative which would buy the catch from them at a fair price. The cooperative would then arrange to transport and sell this in markets where they would get a good price. They have now begun to earn three times more than they earned earlier. The TMS has also begun giving the fish workers loans for repair and the buying of new nets. By managing to earn a higher wage as well as preserving the fish in the reservoir, the TMS has shown that when people's organization get their rights to livelihood, they can be good managers. Take a look at this image. Creative expression against inequality. Land First join us 18 to 20 January 2004. Ekta Parshad. While some join protest movements to fight inequality, others might use their pen or their voice or their ability to dance to draw attention to issue of inequality. Writers, singers, dancers, and artists have also been very active in the fight against inequality. Often poems, songs, and stories can also inspire us and make us believe strongly in an issue and influence our efforts to correct the situation. Adaptation of a song written as part of the Right to Information campaign by Vinay Mahajan. The right to know. My dreams have the right to know why for centuries they have been breaking. Why don't they ever come true? My hands have the right to know. Why do they remain without work all along? Why do they have nothing to do? My feet have the right to know why from village to village they walk on their own. Why are there are no signs of a buzzard? My hunger has the right to know why grain rots in godowns. While I don't even get a fistful of rice, my old mother has the right to know why are there no medicines, needles, dispensaries or bandages. My children have the right to know why do they labor day and night? Why is there no school in sight? What is your favorite line in the above song? What does the poet mean when he says, my hunger has the right to know? Can you share with your class a local song or a poem on dignity that is from your area? The Indian Constitution as a living document, the foundation of all movements for justice and the inspiration for all the poetry and songs on equality is the recognition that all people are equal. As you know, the Indian Constitution recognizes the equality of all persons. Movements and struggles for equality in India continuously refer to the Indian Constitution to make their point about equality and justice for all. The fish workers in the Tava Matsya Sangh hope that the provisions of the Constitution will become a reality through their participation in this movement. By constantly referring to the Constitution, they use it as a living document, that is, something that has real meaning in our lives. In a democracy, there are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new issues. Over 1,500 persons attended a public hearing in Lucknow in 2001 to protest violence against women. Over 15 cases of violence against women were heard by a jury of eminent women who played the role of judges. This people's jury helped highlight the lack of support in the legal system for women who seek justice in such cases. Issues of equality are central to a democracy. In this book, we have tried to highlight issues that pose a challenge to this idea of equality in a democracy. These, as you have read, include the privatization of privatization of health services in the country, the increasing control that business houses exert on the media, the low value given to women and their work, and the low earnings made by small farmers who grow cotton. These issues substantially affect the poor and marginalized communities and therefore concern economic and social equality in the country. This is the core of the struggle for equality in a democracy. The dignity and self respect of each person and their community can by only be realized if they have adequate resources to support and nurture their families and if they are not discriminated against. What role does the Constitution play in people's struggles for equality? Can you make up a social advertisement on equality? You can do this in small groups. You can see here references and the India political map, school road safety awareness campaign. Thank you.